Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well and welcome back to another Speed Build Saturday. Today we're jumping into Forgotten Hollow to keep with the Halloween-y type vibe, and I am building a Victorian vampire family home today. So sit back, relax, get nice and cozy, and enjoy the spooky tunes with me. As I'm still learning the hard way, just because I put it on graph paper does not mean it's going to go just as I planned, because I don't often put the roof on the graph paper. So this one was an absolute nightmare and I messed with it so many times until I was happy with it. I cut out a bunch of the crappy roofs actually because I just took so long, I couldn't stand it. So while I might not be teaching you anything useful with this roof, what I can teach you that's just as good is don't be too hard on yourselves. The roofing in this game is kind of difficult, and even the best of us get caught up with it sometimes. I did struggle a little bit with how I wanted the outside to look. I really couldn't decide at first what kind of textures I wanted on the side of the house, whether I wanted it to be all shingles, if I wanted the tower to be brick, which I eventually figured out didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, so I ended up changing it about 4,000 times, but I am happy with how it turns out in the end. Please bear with me with this stupid, awful, goddamn roof. I really just could not get my head around it, and it took me forever and 3 days to finally get it right. And even then, I'm still not convinced that it's right. was finally happy with the bare bones of the house, I moved on to the door and the windows. I really wanted to have some big, giant open windows in this house, as silly as that sounds for a house full of vampires, but I just thought that a fancy old house would have beautiful big windows. Done, I can go ahead and move inside and start working on the floor plan a little bit more, and I start by throwing down some doorways and also putting down some fencing to separate the rooms instead of walls, because I was going for a more open floor plan in this house. I did almost this entire kitchen in the dark, but I do finally come to the realization that, oh, the lights need to be on. Hooray! I decided pretty early on that I really wanted to embrace those vampire vibes and stick with a black, white, and red kind of color scheme downstairs, and I think it turns out looking pretty slick. I really like the glow-in-the-dark bar, and then the colors really just all come together in the living room and in the entryway and everything. Decided on a red, black, and white kind of color scheme, I still struggled a little bit with what I wanted to be exactly what color. Like, this little corner couch only came in this gray and white swatch that I really liked, so I ended up changing that whole room around to match it a little bit better, but I still kept a pretty good ratio of red to white to black. To give the living room more of an opulent sort of feeling, to kind of give the vibe of these vampires that have lived here and just amassed wealth over generations and generations worth of time. So of course they've got like gold beaded curtains. to make this bathroom feel less lived in, to make it feel like, you know, maybe something isn't quite right in this house. Why is this bathroom so clean? Do these guys ever use it? After throwing some nicer lights on downstairs, I can finally go upstairs and actually focus on it. So I go ahead and jump straight into the master suite. And again, I wanted to go with the vampire reds and blacks, you know, the dark kind of color scheme. And I really love how it turned out. It really looks like this place has been cultivated for a while to have this comfy feeling to it. This bedroom, I actually forwent the white, black, well, no, they're still black, but no red. I went with a purple color scheme and I tried to make it a little bit more modern in here. I imagine that the sim that lives in this room is into interior design, and while they appreciate this gorgeous house that they've grown up in, they seek to further their horizons and just kind of get their own style out there in life. Decided at the last minute to replace this fourth bedroom that I had in my design plans with a little laundry room, because even though the laundry is a little bit buggy sometimes, I still like the extra stress that it adds to my household. I like having that little bit more to worry about. This bathroom, I figured it was going to be more like a communal bathroom, like the ones that the kids were going to use and their friends. So, you know, before they've developed their vampire powers and can't see themselves in the mirror, so I figure they can practice their charisma while they have the chance. And then the final bedroom actually ends up a completely different color scheme than the rest of the house. This is the only room in the house that has a really cool kind of color scheme. The rest of it's very warm toned, and this room's even got an aquarium to really add to that chill out sort of vibe. After finishing up the kids' bedroom, I moved back out into this little landing at the top of the stairs and throw some rugs down to make it just a little bit more cozy. And then I put some windows for the rain to beat on while you're reading, because is there anything better than that? once I finally get the fence down in a way that I think looks nice with the layout of the house itself, I go ahead and move into building a little secret basement and a cute little outdoor gardening space. And you can also entertain out here too with the seats by the fountain. And I decided to put the wishing well in too because, I mean, you're alive forever. Who's not gonna want to tempt fate? We're finally in the last room of the house, which is a little underground crypt that I figured I could make for them. A nice place to hide from the sun and to get a good night's rest when they just can't seem to get it in their own beds. But with the crypt nearly finished, we can go ahead and jump into the game and start the tour. Here we are in Forgotten Hollow in-game, so we can go ahead and do a proper walkthrough of the house. So it makes a little bit more sense than it does with me just skipping around everywhere in my builds. Oops. Alright, so from the front porch, walk on in into this nice little seating area, and then there's a quiet, quaint little study in here for both the parents and the kids. And then I love this dining room kitchen area so much. And then we'll actually go ahead and hit up the bathroom real quick before we go and look at the living room downstairs. So in here, I decided to go with a much more rustic kind of color scheme just because I feel like there would still be part of this house that look old, considering that vampires live here and they don't necessarily need to use the bathroom, you know what I mean? What are you doing here? I teleported you away. Oh, don't mind her. And then we can go ahead and pop upstairs. So popping up the stairs, we come to this nice little landing with a reading nook. And then around the corner, we've got an organ because, you know, Vampire House wouldn't be complete without one. And then we've got the master suite through this big fancy door. And I really love how it looks, even though, you know, might not be a vampire's favorite place to sleep. I felt like it made a pretty good cover story, just in case you wanted to put this house in like Willow Creek or something and play some undercover vampires that aren't so well known. But with the master suite done, I'm actually gonna move across the hall and pop into the first purple bedroom. Really envisioned them being a little bit more creative, so I gave them a writing space and some colorful posters and some designing stuff. And then here is the third and final bathroom, which end up much more grayscale, kind of like the foyers and things in the house. And then finally we have one last bedroom, which is the children's double bedroom, where I figured they might have some swords and shields and stuff just from, you know, how long the family's been around. That's actually the last official room in the house, so I'm gonna go ahead back outside and show you guys this cute little garden space with a sit-down area around the fountain where you can have some company. But if your guests happen to be a little nosy, they might just come across the crypt where, of course, if the beds don't offer good enough slumber, the caskets can. But with that, that is everything. This lot will be on the gallery as a Victorian vampire home, so if you guys would like to, go ahead and download it, leave a like if you liked it, a comment down below with what you'd like to see me build in the future, subscribe if you're new, and as always guys, have a good day. I'll see you later.